Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. It is the match reaction. It's labelled as instant, but we'll go with it. The instant match reaction for Everton's 3-0, 4-0 victory over Dynamo Kyiv last night in our final pre-season game before the start of the Premier League season against Chelsea next Saturday. The Blues were back at Goodison for the first time since that historic win over Crystal Palace towards the back end of last season. And Frank Lampard's team were going out there looking for a win. I think, as I said, there was obviously greater reasons as to why that game was played, obviously to help out the Ukrainian humanitarian appeal, to see all of the, Ukrainian fans and Dynamo Kyiv fans in the stadium was absolutely wonderful as well. The tributes both before, at half-time and after the game were absolutely fantastic and very, very, very touching. And I think the rendition of Imagine at the end of the game was one that I think will have touched an awful lot of people, especially everybody that remained in the stadium for that. And yeah, as I said, there was much greater reasons as to why that game of football was being played over sort of preparation for the Premier League season. But at the end of the day, it was preparation for the Premier League season. We all turned up at Goodison not only to help out, the great causes, but also to watch Everton Football Club before, for the final time before we play a really, really difficult Premier League opener. And the hope yesterday going into Goodison was that, we'd be able to perform, we'd be able to, look sharp, look impressive, look, clued up tactically, look good, and obviously come away with the win to build a little bit of confidence and a little bit of momentum ahead of the game next week, and that's exactly what we did, didn't we? We turned up in fashion. It was a really, really good result. I think performance-wise, I think the opening 10 minutes was really good, and I think the second half was really good. In between the 10-minute mark and half-time, I don't think was particularly great, but we were introduced to Dwight McNeil, who is the second coming of Lionel Messi. It's as simple as that. He's absolutely wonderful. What did I tell you all? And we can sit here and say, let's not get carried away, Cam. It's only a pre-season friendly. It's only a friendly against the team that played a couple of days ago. Let's not get carried away. Listen, I sat here and said Dwight McNeil will be a success for Everton Football Club, and I think he'll score 10 goals next season. He's already got 2 under his name, hasn't he? And by the way, if he gets 8 in the Premier League, I am counting them 2 he scored yesterday. But no, in all seriousness, it was a fantastic debut for Dwight. Coming into Goodison Park, obviously only 24 hours after signing his contract at Everton and getting the reception that he did, scoring the goals that he did. He had a song after about 7 minutes, which is absolutely wonderful. And, it was just good to see a midfielder who wasn't afraid to pick the ball up and run with it, wasn't it? That was what I was most impressed with. It wasn't a case of, oh my God, he scored 2 goals. He's going to be the best player in the world. And I've seen a couple of people saying, oh, don't get carried away. It's only a pre-season friendly, this, that and the other. I wasn't getting carried away with the fact that he'd scored twice. I was getting carried away with the fact that he picked the ball up from the halfway line. He ran with it. He took a player on and he put it in the back of the net in brilliant fashion. And by the way, we can sit here all we like and say it's only Dynamo Kyiv, it's only a pre-season friendly. Not one Premier League goalkeeper saves that first goal. Not one. It's so accurate. It's so far in the corner. None of them are saving it. And that's exactly what we need. Directness, players that will pick the ball up, drive with it, and put the ball in the back of the net. We know he's got a wonderful left foot. Every one of his corners beat the first man. I can't remember the last time I watched an Everton corner beat the last man. So, yeah, it was great to see Dwight McNeil. Great to see Ruben Vinagre, of course, who, again, very similarly started his Everton career with a bang. Really, really nice assist for McNeil's second goal. Beat his man. Showed a lot of pace, to be fair, to get past him. Really, really good, clever, dinked ball in to the box. And obviously that the second was a little bit easier for Dwight McNeil. He was stood effectively on his own to head it into the back of the net. And obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin's goal opened it in the first couple of minutes. Once again, James Tarkowski showing that he's an absolutely wonderful passer of a football. Really, really nice long ball over the top. Dom gets on the end of it, heads it in, and makes it 1-0, of course. But, as I said, listen, it was an interesting game of football, really, because obviously Dynamo Kyiv were there to play, and ultimately were there to win it as part of their pre-season as well. I wasn't massively impressed with Dynamo Kyiv, and I understand people saying, they weren't very good, they didn't bring much. I get that. I think we allowed them back into the game. I think we started the game really, really well. Obviously, Frank Lampard started with what I can only assume will be the team that will start against Chelsea. Now, okay, you might have Yerry Mina in there, and maybe Dwight McNeil might start now that he's had a couple of goals and he's impressed on his debut. But as soon as I seen the starting 11, an hour before kickoff, the first thing I thought was, right, okay, that will be the starting 11 that we see on Saturday against Chelsea, because it seemed like that. It was lined up like that. Obviously, we had a centre midfield of Abdoulaye Doucouré and Alex Iwobi, 5 at the back being Keane, Tarkowski, Godfrey, Mykolenko and Patterson, and then of course Gray, Calvert-Lewin and Anthony Gordon up front. And I think we started well, to be fair. I think the opening 5-10 minutes we were on the ball an awful lot. Obviously, we got a very early goal, which was good to see. Again, as I said, really, really good ball over by James Tarkowski and a looped header by Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Bit of a strange goal, to be fair. One that I was almost waiting for the offside flag to go up on, and one that maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin wouldn't have scored in the Premier League on the sense that he probably wouldn't have been given that much space in the box, but he got an opportunity and he took it, and we can't say much more than that, can we? And then for a couple of minutes after the goal, I think we still looked like we were on the attack. We still looked like we were wanting to go and get another. We still looked like we were progressive. We still looked like we were, getting at Dynamo Kyiv with a bit of aggression and with a bit of, desire to go and, further the scoreline. And then all of a sudden, after about 10 minutes, we seemed to take our foot off the gas a little bit, and I don't know whether it was a conscious decision by Frank Lampard to sit back and defend the 1-0, lead, or whether it was just something that has happened to this team time and time and time again over the recent months and years, and that is just letting the foot slip off the gas when you're ahead and when you're getting at a team, when you're putting pressure on the team. Everton tend to, and it's a really, really bad habit, and it's something that Frank Lampard needs to train out of these players. We tend to almost become complacent. It's almost like, well, yeah, we've got them now because we're getting at them and we're breaking and they're struggling, and we allow teams back into games. And I spoke about it before. The confidence bar when Everton were 1-0 up and attacking was here, and then because we become complacent, our confidence bar sort of drops a little bit, whilst the opposition, as Dynamo Kyiv in this example, is gaining, because they're thinking, actually, do you know what? They're taking their foot off the gas a little bit here, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. They started to get their foot on the ball a little bit. I can't lie, I wasn't massively impressed with the midfield two of Alex Iwobi and Abdoulaye Doucouré. I don't think Alex Iwobi's a centre midfielder. He might be a central attacking midfielder. He might be a number 10. He might be somebody that can play as part of a midfield three, because he can be a little bit more attacking, and I think that's where we saw his best football towards the end of last season. But I don't think he's a centre midfielder in a two. I just don't think he's got that defensive mindset, really. Certainly not in that position. I think he's got the work rate to get back and defend, but in centre midfield, it's not about having a work rate to get back and defend. It's about having that know-how and awareness to be in the right positions at the right time. And I just don't know whether Alex Iwobi has got that, because he's a natural attacking player. And there was times yesterday where we were allowing Dynamo Kyiv far too much time and far too much space in the middle of the park to play through us. And there was periods where there was just massive holes in the middle of the park, and that's not good enough. We ultimately need more than that. And they started to get back into the game, as I said, and for the last 35 minutes of the second half, probably more so 30, I think they were the better team. I think they were the more progressive team. I think they were the more attacking team. They were getting corners. They were playing the ball through. I think whilst I really, really like Vitaly Mykolenko and Nathan Patterson, I think it was a little bit too easy for Dynamo Kyiv to get down the sides, to get down the wide areas and put balls into the box. They had a couple of corners which were dangers. They had a free kick which Jordan Pickford made an absolute whaley of a save from. And I remember turning around to the fella next to me, and this is something that Frank Lampard is going to have to address before Saturday. And this isn't being negative, by the way. This is just being realistic and saying it how I see it. And I remember turning around to the fella who was sat next to me. We'd had a little bit of a conversation throughout the game, and I remember saying, it was just after their free kick, and I said to him, "Great save that by Pickford, but let's be honest, the 3 or 4 chances they've just had before that, if that was Chelsea, would be 3-1 down, because teams like Chelsea are lethal. Premier League teams are lethal. Dynamo Kyiv weren't great yesterday, and listen, I'm not going to sit here and have a massive go at them because A, it benefited Everton, but B, they've had an awful lot going on recently in their personal lives, and ultimately they were here to play a game of football, compete, and they did compete. As I said, I think they were the better team for the last half an hour of the first half. But it was little positional errors, allowing players to get in behind far too easily, allowing shots to be hard, allowing their forwards to move with the ball far too comfortably without any real pressure on them. It's okay in a pre-season friendly against a team that aren't at the level of a Premier League side, but when you're playing Chelsea on the opening game of the season, if we give them as much space as we did Dynamo Kyiv in that last 20-25 minutes of the first half, I think we'll come unstuck, and that's something that the manager's ultimately going to have to work on. One person I was really, really impressed with, aside from Dwight McNeil, aside from Ruben Vinagre, aside from Dele Alli, who I thought was brilliant when he come on, was James Tarkowski. James Tarkowski, again, was my man of the match. And I know a lot of people will give it to Dwight because he come off the bench and within 9 minutes already had a brace and has got a song about him and this, that and the other. But James Tarkowski, again, was absolutely faultless. His tackle in the box is unbelievable, by the way. We can sit here all we like and say it was a bit harsh, it was a friendly, it was this, that and the other. I've watched it on replay 2 or 3 times already today. It's unbelievable. It's an absolutely fantastic challenge. A fantastic challenge. Louis says Kiev were playing their second team, to be fair to them. Yeah, they had a lot of players rested, I would say, because they played in the Champions League a couple of days ago. So, yeah, as I said, the tackle from James Tarkowski is unbelievable. Not only the tackle, by the way, the initial block of the shot I was more impressed with, because Michael Keane allows the player to just walk in front of him and allows him to just get goal side of him, and James Tarkowski comes in, clatters the shot, and then runs out and makes the challenge, which is an absolutely fantastic challenge as well. And this is what I love about James Tarkowski. He done that and he immediately turned around and was looking as if to say, why have I had to go and do that? I shouldn't have had to do that because that ball should have been covered in the first place. And he's shouting at Gray, he's shouting at Keane, and he's right back in. Yes, he had a little bit of a conversation with the lad, I think, to say, listen, I hope you're all right. But after that, it was, I'm a professional footballer, I'm a defender, this is what I do. It was not, I think sometimes some of our defenders, barring Yerry Mina and probably Ben Godfrey, get into a space of, I can't make an arse challenge because what if I injure a player, or what if I upset someone, or what if I put them down and they get hurt. Whereas you can see Tarkowski's not got that in him. Tarkowski's got that, I'll make the tackle, if I hurt him I'll apologise, and then I'll get up and say, listen, this is what I'm here for, this is what I do, I'm a defender, I'm a centre half, I make these tackles. And as I said, that challenge yesterday was fabulous, and he's made a couple of them in pre-season, and he showed his leadership. There was a number of times I was sat in the lower Gladys seat, so I was quite close to the pitch, and in that first half there were a number of times where you can see him talking to Mikalenko, talking to Iwobi, talking to Decore, talking to Michael Keane, Damari Gray. He's constantly talking, he's constantly communicating, and again, I don't want to jump the gun, but he is a massive leader. And he's a leader on that pitch, and we haven't got enough of them. We really, really haven't. And then, like I said, they get the free kick, of course, which was an absolute thunderbolt of a free kick, by the way. An absolute thunderbolt of a free kick. Really, really good save by Jordan Pickford. And we go in at half-time, 1-0 up. I wouldn't say I wasn't impressed. I'd just say I think we allowed them back into the game towards the end of the second half, and ultimately the second half was then going to be difficult because they had grown in confidence. But we went in with the 1-0 lead. Great header by Dominic Calvert-Lewin, of course, to put us 1-0 up. Great to see Dom on the scoreline as well. That will do him the world of confidence ahead of next week. And then at half time, I went down to try and get a pie. The queue was as long as anything I've ever seen before. So I didn't end up getting a pie. I come back up to my seat. I see Michael McIntyre on the screen in an Everton jumper. My heads fell off. What is Michael McIntyre doing on the screen? Obviously, we found out towards the end of the game that was to surprise a very special Evertonian, which I think was a brilliant touch. But I still couldn't get my head around Michael McIntyre sat with Frank Lampard in an Everton jumper. To be honest with you, it blew. It really, really did blow my mind. Bear with me 2 seconds, sorry. Ped's dropped me a message, just needs to see what he said. So yeah, we come out for the second half, no changes, which I think was a bit of a surprise. Glenn says, what type of pie were you going to get? Probably the chicken balti one, mate, or the veggie balti, whatever it is. I'm a big fan of that, to be honest. I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, we come out the second half, as I said, no changes. I was surprised by that, because I did expect to see a couple of changes from Frank Lampard. I thought, he might have taken your likes of your Michalenko off at half time, just to make sure that they rested and recovered for, the game against Chelsea. Same with Patterson. Same with Dom, but he didn't make any changes. We come out the exact same, and again, I think we started the second half relatively well. I think Dynamo Kyiv at this point were getting a little bit tired. I think they were, they didn't do much attacking in the second half. They got forward a couple of times. Obviously we made a couple of substitutes. Let me mute that. We made a couple of substitutes early on in the second half, one being Mason Holgate coming on, who within 25 seconds of being on the pitch decided to give them a one-on-one opportunity, which was great. But until the subs were made, nothing really was happening. It was very much just pass the ball around, move it around. I think it was very calm by Everton. They were sort of chasing, but almost chasing, understanding that they weren't getting anywhere near the ball. And then we made the changes. Dwight come on, Dele come on, obviously Mason Holgate come on, Ruben Vinagre come on, and then a little bit later on in the game, Rondon come on at that time as well. Then obviously we had some of the young lads, Stanley Mills, Lewis Warrington, Reece Welsh, etc., all come on towards the end of the game. But the changes really did change it, which is what they were there for, of course. But they changed the outcome of the game, of course, and I think they changed the way in which we were attacking. I think Dwight McNeil come on with the thought in his brain is that I need to make an impact there. I want to make an impact there. Same with Ruben Vinagre. He was very, very, very lively, as if it was almost like, right, I need to snatch this chance on my debut to make an impact on the fans and ultimately the manager. And they did do that. Obviously, Dele come on before Rondon, so Dele come on in a sort of a false nine to replace Dominic Calvert-Lewin, almost like a striker. And as Alfie says, Dele looks very good in a false nine. I said it the other day, mate, and I'll say it again. If Dele is to be a success at Everton, I think he has to play as a striker or a false nine, this, that and the other, whatever you want to call it. He's got to play as a striker for me, because I just don't think he's got enough pace to be on the wing. And I think putting him on one of the wings, it almost sort of neglects his ability, because when he's directly in the middle, you can see he's got an option. He can go left, he can go right, or he can go himself and he can dribble through. And he's done that a couple of times yesterday, and we've seen him do that a couple of times since joining Everton Football Club. Whereas you put him on one of the wings, and ultimately he can only go one way. He's not fast, so he's not going to be players for pace, and it's very easy to defend against, because a player knows, right, well, he can only go left or he can only go right, because he can't go the other way because he'll run it out of play. So again, we saw it against Blackpool, and we saw it for 15-20 minutes yesterday. For 15-20 minutes, he was excellent, Dele, yesterday. He was absolutely excellent. He was getting on the ball. He was, he was moving it well. His passing was good. He was taking players on. He was nicking it under players. He was passing and moving it. He was very, very good. And as soon as he was moved over to the wing for Rondon, he disappeared a little bit. You didn't really see much of him then, because he was nullified on that right hand side, left hand side. Sorry. But like I said the other day, and I will say it again, I would rather, and I'm not just saying this to jump on the anti-Rondon bandwagon, I'm not just saying it, for the sake of saying it, I would rather Dele come on to replace Dominic Calvert-Lewin in a Premier League game than Solomon Rondon. And I would rather Dele come on as that striker, false nine, whatever you want to call it, than bring him on the wing. And you could say, well, what about in the number 10? Well, yeah, you could bring him on in the number 10, but judging by the way Frank Lampard's setting up at the moment, we're not going to have a number 10. So, again, if you were bringing him on in centre midfield, he would be a centre midfielder, which would be worrying, because he hasn't got enough energy and pace, I don't think, to be a part of a midfield too. We saw Iwobi struggle yesterday, and he's got a lot of energy and a lot of pace. And again, the midfield is another big issue. We're dying for another midfielder. We're desperate for another midfielder. Whether or not we'll have one before Saturday, we'll wait and see. Whether or not it'll be a Drissagana game, we'll wait and see. But I still am a massive fan of putting three in the midfield, to be honest with you. But anyway, yeah, I thought Dele was excellent in that false nine position. He was moving the ball well. He was getting it out to McNeil. He was spraying it out to either side, and he was causing a threat ultimately. And you could see he was causing a threat to Dynamo Kyiv. But the start of the show, other than Paul at the end, which we'll touch on in a minute. But the start of the show was obviously the dream debut delight, direct, delightful Dwight. There's one for you. What a debut that was. And listen, we can sit here all we like and say it's a pre-season friendly, it's this, it's that, it's the other. But I can guarantee you, had he have come on with 35 minutes to go and not touched the ball and done absolutely nothing, we'd be sitting here now going, yeah, it was a pre-season friendly, but I would have liked to have seen more from him. So I think he does deserve his credit. Ultimately, it was a game of football. It was a game of football having after signed for the football club 24 hours earlier. So yes, we can sit here and say, let's not get ahead of ourselves and it was only one game and let's wait and see him in the Premier League and this, that and the other. Of course we can say that, but we can also sit here and say he's the second coming of Lionel Messi, because he is. No. But in all honesty, I thought he was really, really impressive. Even goals, taking his goals aside, his footwork was very good. His close ball control was very good. He knew how to get himself out of dangerous areas. He didn't always look for the easy pass as well. I noticed that there was one point where he had two of the Kiev players around him, and he was holding the ball up really well. And Michalenko, not Michalenko, I think it was Patterson, was to his left, and he could have played an easy ball out, but he didn't. He cut inside and he played it right across the midfield to Abdoulaye Doucouré, and it showed that he's willing to take those risks. He's willing to, to put himself in those areas where he looks for a better pass rather than just the easy ball. And as I said, I was really, really impressed, goals aside, with that close ball control, with his ability to pick it up and take players on and move the ball. His passing was spot on as well. I think he misplaced one long ball, which was unfortunate. His crossing, his corners were better than what we've seen. They still weren't unbelievable, but they were better than what we've seen. Tarkowski nearly got on the end of one. I think Reece Welsh nearly got on the end of one as well. And then his goals, his first goal is just exactly what we need. And again, pre-season friendly against a team that weren't very good, etc, this, that and the other. It's not the point. The point is whether it was a pre-season friendly against Dynamo Kyiv or an FA Cup final against Liverpool, when he picked that ball up in the midfield, he had in his head, I'm going to drive with this and I'm going to get this on my strong foot and I'm going to hit it. And listen, I know Anthony Gordon does that sometimes, and I know Damari Gray started last season doing that as well, and I appreciate that, and I understand that there's still a long way to go, and I understand that, one game doesn't mean that he's all of a sudden absolutely amazing. I get that, but he's clearly got an absolute wand of a left foot, and ultimately, that desire and determination to pick the ball up and drive through the midfield, I think it's something that a certain Ross Barkley will have been watching yesterday thinking, shit, this is what they would have wanted to bring me in to do, and they've already brought a lad in who can do the same. It was great to see him pick it up, great to see him charge with it, great to see him cut in on a strong foot, and ultimately his shot was brilliant as well. He didn't scuff it. It was a fantastic shot, it with a lot of power, it with a lot of pace from quite a distance as well. And as I said earlier, no goalkeeper is saving that. No, it wasn't just the case of bad goalkeeping. No goalkeeper is saving that, because at the end of the day, it was hit so accurately. It was hit so with so much power and pace that it just wasn't being saved. And we can sit here and say, well, he won't get that time in the Premier League camp. Well, he won't get that much space in the Premier League. He mightn't get that much time and space in the Premier League to drive with the ball. He will do it certain occasions because we see it. But, that mightn't be an often occasion. But what he will get in the Premier League is opportunities to hit it with his left foot from those types of areas. And he's very, very accurate with it. And his second goal was great as well. Obviously, Ruben Vinagre had come on at this point, contributing really, really nice. Turn inside, good shift ball into the box. And, to be fair, Dwight McNeil is stood completely on his own. But he gets the head on it. And he makes it 2-0. And all of a sudden, after, 15 minutes of being an Everton player, he's got a brace and he's got his own song. And his own song is extremely, extremely addictive. In fact, I think he's got 2 songs. He's been here less than 2 days. He's scored twice and he's got 2 tunes already. Leighton Baines was here for 10+ years, an absolute legend, and never got a tune. What's going on? But no, it was a fantastic debut. And as I said, even though it was against Dynamo Kyiv, and even though it was, in a game that ultimately was made for more important things rather than the actual result, it was nice to see him start like that, and it was nice to see Ruben Vinagre come on and get an assist as well, because he showed exactly what he could bring to this Everton team. From that point on, we made a couple of more substitutes. Obviously, Rondon has come on at this point. Dele's moved over to the wing. Rondon has come on and just started bulldozing people, which maybe is what he was there to do. We brought a couple of the young lads on. Lewis Warrington, of course. Reece Welsh in there. Stanley Mills, who I thought held themselves well. I thought Reece Welsh held himself well, albeit at that point I don't think they were bringing much. Where can I hear the Dwight song, says John Jones. Well, I'll give you one now. It's Dwight McNeil. That was the one that was sang in the stadium by pretty much everybody. The other one I'm not going to sing because I'll get copyrighted, but it goes along the lines of "You make me feel Dwight McNeil." I can't sing it in any ways because I'll just get straight down, but you get what I mean. John Jones says Vinagre shaken but not stirred. Vinagre brought the honey, says Glenn. He was fantastic. He done what he needed to do ultimately. And then, as I said, the young lads come on. We sort of saw the game out. Dynamo Kyiv at this point, I think, were just in acceptance that they'd been beaten, and it was more just enjoying the occasion. And then, of course, we brought Paul on 88 minutes in. 87 minutes in, Frank Lampard makes another substitution. Dele being replaced this time for Paul Stratton, who, if you don't know the context to the situation, if you were watching the game yesterday thinking, who's this fella? Why has he just come on for Everton? And why has he scored a penalty? Let's give you a bit of backstory. So, Paul was brought on because Paul is an Evertonian who has been delivering supplies by car to refugees from the Russian invasion in Ukraine. I think he's actually been driving numerous times in and out of Poland, so risking his life to help others, risking his life to help innocent men, women, children, and everybody in between for because obviously of what's going on at the moment. Now obviously this game was ultimately about John says Ned's better at singing. That's because he does it for a living. This other game was obviously about much more than just a pre-season friendly. It was much more than just a final warm-up before the start of the season. It was about helping a great cause. We saw the songs being performed before, during and after the game. And it was ultimately about showing our solidarity and unity with everybody in Ukraine, but specifically, obviously, the Ukrainians that are living in Merseyside, and obviously Dynamo Kyiv and stuff as well. And it was really heartwarming. It was really sort of again. It was emotional. It was emotional to see how the Dynamo Kyiv players reacted to that as well. You could see it at the end of the game. You could see how much they just were hating because of everything that's going on, but appreciated what Everton had done. And Paul, obviously, as I said, has been a massive part of that, literally putting his own life at risk selflessly to go and help other people. And I think it was a great move by Everton. I think it was a great move by Frank Lampard. I think it was brilliant that all of the players got involved with it. Dele gave him a big hug when he come on. Frank had his arm around him. He was running up and down the pitch, warming up, signing people's autographs. The Evertonians were absolutely all over it. He comes on, he gets a penalty. Obviously, he scores the penalty, celebrates in front of the Gladys seat. And what I was really, really impressed with is, I think a couple of the players, probably subconsciously, more so rather than purposely, I don't think they were particularly going to run over to Paul and give him a big hug. I think it was more just like, that's brilliant, that. But it wasn't in a conscious decision to go over. What I was really, really impressed with was Lewis Warrington. Now, Lewis Warrington, listen, whether or not he's going to be good enough to be an Everton midfielder in the future, it's not the conversation we're going to have at this moment, and it's a conversation we can have on a different day. Lewis Warrington's an Evertonian. Season ticket holder in the Gladys seat. His Twitter handle is LewisEFC. He's an Evertonian, born and bred. His dream is to do what Paul has just done. Play for Everton, score in front of the Gladys seat, this, that and the other. Lewis Warrington was straight over to Paul, give him a big hug, and then I think that's when you're seeing the likes of Rondon, Reece Welsh, Dwight McNeil, Niels and Kunku, all of the other players then went over to him and done the same. Frank Lampard come over to him at the end. Dominic Calvert-Lewin come over to him at the end. But Lewis Warrington was straight over there. And I thought that was really, really impressive. But what an opportunity for Paul. By the way, what a night that would have been. That would have arguably been the best day of his life. I'm not going to say it will be, because he might have a wife and kids, etc., and they mightn't be happy with that. But Paul has just lived every one of our dreams, hasn't he? Coming on in a game of football, by the way, not at half time, not in a behind closed doors game. Paul's come on in front of 25,000-30,000 Evertonians there and put the ball into the back of the net in front of the Gladys seat and celebrated with his players, with his teammates, with the manager. Fair play to Dynamo Kyiv as well for obviously participating in that when they were 3-0 down. Not that they had much choice, but for fair play to them. I thought the goalkeeper was really good as well. Maybe he could have dived the other way to make it look a bit more realistic, but he probably had a long night at that point. And yeah, as I said, I thought it was really, really impressive. Paul absolutely deserves it. Paul is a superhero, by the way, a real-life superhero. We sit here and we watch Marvel and DC and Batman and Spider-Man. Paul is a real-life superhero. A superhero is somebody that is putting their life on the line and putting their life at risk in order to help others. Now, Paul, I don't know Paul's story, but I would bet money that before this all happened, he had no affiliation with Ukraine, he's got no family over there, no nothing over there. This is just pure out of him being an unbelievable human being, and he deserves that. He deserves that more than anybody, and he will have lived his dream there to score at Goodison Park in front of 20,000 Evertonians, a packed out Gladys seat, and celebrate with the Everton players. So yeah, it was brilliant to see. The game in itself was a good event. It was a good, as I said, it was all for a good cause, and it was great to see the support that everybody showed for Ukraine. Performance by Everton, as I said, for the most part was good. Little bit of complacency, I think, in the first half, but the second half was sound, and ultimately we went and we won the game. Wonderlust says would have hit Cam's house with it. I think you're saying if you would have taken it. Chris says Paul embodies spirit of the Blues in the darkest hour, provide hope. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Semi says did well to put it in. I would have bottled it and sent it into the other. To be honest, can you imagine the sheer stress that was going through his mind when he stepped up to take that? Imagine he'd have missed it. But no. It was great to see. It was great to see. That was heartwarming, says Wonderlust. John says there is a role for Iwobi, but where is it, Cam? It all depends on what Frank Lampard's system is. I don't think it's as a central midfielder on his own next to Corey. I think if there's a 3 in midfield, he's got a role in there. I think he may still have a role on the wing as well. But again, it all depends on what the manager wants to go with. Richarlison says, not Richarlison, the real Richarlison, but he says Paul only had one touch and scored. He did. John says hats off to Paul, is right. You know what? Paul, if I was Paul, I'd give it to Dwight McNeil to get his hat-trick. No, I'm only messing. I'm only messing. That's a joke before anybody takes that literally. I'm only messing. Glenn says, when he came on, I thought to myself, Ross Barkley needs some match fitness. Bloody hell. Peter says, back to reality for the Chelsea game. Midfield is still a house of cards. Yeah, I wouldn't be playing Iwobi and Takore as a midfield 2 next week. I just wouldn't. Semi says, played sports as a lad, but never footy. Definitely would not have scored. So well done, Paul. Is right. Glenn says if Richie was the leader, he would have probably tried to steal Paul's penalty. So would Ross Barkley, to be fair. Yeah, there you go. Look, it was a win. Obviously, the game was about much more than that, but it was a win. We wanted to win. That was what we were there for, and we did that. Dwight McNeil was absolutely phenomenal. James Tarkowski was absolutely phenomenal. Dele was brilliant. Vinagre come on and done well. Michalenko was fantastic as well. Obviously, it was a very emotional night for him. And yeah, we now look forward to the Premier League opener against Chelsea on the weekend. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. A massive thank you to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. I really, really do appreciate it. If you watch this YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we will get involved with as many of them as possible. Did Dynamo know about it, Cam? They look so confused. They will have known about it. Some of their players might have missed the memo, but the manager and the goalkeeper clearly knew about it. Clearly. Anyway, big thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean a massive amount to me. We are gaining towards 7,000 subscribers now, less than 80 away. So if you could hit that subscribe button, it would mean a massive amount to me. Big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon.